Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's December 17th, 2023. Recently posted a video on our one and done GE new washer dryer combo that uses a heat pump technology that saves energy. And one of the questions says, well, how much energy is it actually using? Of course, they have their energy efficiency labels on them, which really doesn't mean all that much. And so I got a question. How much does this one actually use? So it's really dependent on a whole bunch of different factors when you're trying to measure the cost. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I found my kilowatt meter, which is right up over here. Let me see if I can move this around again. Hopefully that's showing up. So my goal with the kilowatt meter, in a second here, my goal with the kilowatt meter is I just reset it. So a kilowatt meter basically can help you to determine how much energy is being consumed and what the relative cost is of running that appliance over a period of time. And it can help you to determine if there's phantom or vampire sucking. In other words, is the appliance using energy even when the appliance isn't turned on? And I'll try to put a link to this kilowatt meter down below. I'll try to remember that. But when you're measuring devices like a refrigerator, it depends on how much food is in the refrigerator and in the freezer. It depends on the temperature. If you're checking your air conditioning unit, how much energy is being used, the temperature, the humidity, a whole bunch of variables really are involved in trying to figure out what the average energy consumption by a particular unit in your particular circumstances. So I just went ahead and went through and reset the unit. And I set it to, I just looked up what the energy costs are here in Oswego County where we live. And our energy costs are a little bit less than the national average. Certainly those in California, it's much less than those in California. It looks like ours is about 17 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's what I set the kilowatt meter to say, even though it doesn't cost us anything because we're all solar. So we have solar panels that provide more energy than what we consume a year. And I've made videos about that, but this video isn't about that right now. So let's assume that we were tied to the grid, we didn't have solar panels. How much would this unit cost us? Now what I'll do is we'll run one regular clothes wash cycle. Theo already loaded it, but what I'll share the results of that afterwards. But what I'll do is I'll leave it plugged in, let's say for a month or at least a couple of weeks, and that way there. So it really depends on how often you're using the machine, what type of clothes you're putting into it, or towels or comforters, whatever it may be. So the amount of time and the amount of energy that the unit is using. So we're just going to get a ballpark today. So I've got it plugged in. I thought I'd set up a time-lapse camera looking at the display here in the front, and I'll put another camera over the kilowatt meter. I can't remember if it really is going to show very much. It's kind of tucked in behind the machine back here, so it's a tough spot. And so we'll see what we get. So here we go. Why aren't you turning off? Okay, the load of laundry is finished, and two things. Cameras really didn't work out very well. First reason is too dark over here, so the camera that I had on this, which the battery stayed working, just shows us a dark object over here in the corner, so that didn't work out. The camera, there was a lot of reflection from the washing dryer itself, and the battery ran dead, so you didn't get to see the cycle happen there. And the load finished about a couple of hours ago. And when I unplugged it and then and I'm talking about the kilowatt meter itself, so when I unplugged it and then plugged it back in and I reset the unit, I didn't save the rate, so it came up as its default rate. So in other words, the default rate that it comes up with is 25 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's the way it calculated it. We used just, let me put my glasses on here. We used, let's see, is this showing up on the screen? So here the rate shows 25 cents an hour, and we use just over 1 kilowatt, which is 1,080 watts. Now it's been down, so I don't know if it's using extra energy. We'll have to see over time. But a single load used about 1 kilowatt of energy, and it's been plugged in now for 5 hours and 22 minutes. And it's 120 volt, the circuit is. And it's guesstimating at 25 cents per kilowatt hour that it's going to cost us 27 cents. But it's actually about 17 cents where we live here per kilowatt hour. So it's about 17 or 18 cents per load. So I hope that that's making sense. Sorry, things are falling all over here. Sorry, the camera system didn't work out. The receptacle for the washer dryer unit was never meant to be seen, so it's tucked in back there. And my batteries ran dead watching the washer dryer unit. So it really depends on how often you're doing loads of laundry, and how many times a day, and how many times a month, and how many times a year, to really figure out what this is going to cost you each year. My first mistake, as I mentioned, was I forgot to save the setting when I reset the setting to 17 cents per kilowatt hour. So you just either Google what or you can look on your utility bill and see what you're being charged per kilowatt hour on your bill or on your monthly statement. We're hooked up, if we were hooked up to the grid, it costs us between 17 and 18 cents per load to wash and dry each load. What I'm going to do is leave this plugged in to the kilowatt meter and see how it does over a month. Now, Thea does a load of laundry for the animals every day. Probably does 2 loads of laundry a week, I'm guessing, for people stuff. Then maybe once a week bedding and sheets, I'm guessing that, and comforter. So we're probably looking at 10, 11 loads a week would be. But you could calculate how much you use, but I'll leave it plugged in. I'll leave it at the 25 cent kilowatt hour rating, and it'll keep track of how many, and you can actually cycle through with this and say, well, how much is it going to cost a day? How much is it going to cost per week? How much is it going to cost a month? And how much is it going to cost a year? So it will give you estimates of that based on what you're using. It really is dependent about the number of loads you have. If you had it plugged into a computer, the computer would probably be, as long as a computer was on all the time, or television, it would be a pretty accurate reading within a month to tell you how much you're going to use per year. With a refrigerator freezer, that would be a very accurate thing. But getting one-time cycle here, so we use that much. If we were to cycle through the day, week, month, year, it'd come up with a very high number because it would assume that we're always running the machine. I hope that makes sense. So the kilowatt meter is a really handy thing to do. I'll try to remember to put a link to this, or one of the other, something like it, for an Amazon affiliate link in the description below. But that's not bad, 17 to 18 cents for it. Now, it didn't cost us anything because we're on solar here. But I think that's pretty energy efficient, so you could figure out, If you are off-grid, and that was one of the questions that I had, this person's off-grid and they're trying to figure out how much energy this unit would consume, but it's really dependent on how many usages you're using. And so, but 1 kilowatt hour to do 1.08 kilowatt hours is what this used, or 1,080 watts is what it used to do the load. And I don't know that there's any vampire or leaching of the power from this at all. I don't see LED lights on or any of that sort of thing. So we'll see over time. I'll keep it plugged in for the next month. And I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please give us a thumbs up and take care, folks. Stay safe and have a great day. Bye-bye now.